All right, so what's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Pod Ep.6. I am your host, 2400Y2K. And again, I want to thank y'all for all the support, the views, the likes. I appreciate all of it. So off bat, I had a story I wanted to tell because the other night I was driving home, right? My stomach started feeling crazy, and so I had to fucking, I was like 5 minutes away from home or whatever. So I ended up making it home, going to the bathroom, whatever. But it made me think, right? Like, what time in my life, or no, it made me think, it would have fucking sucked if I was like on a road trip or on a somewhere where I couldn't use the bathroom for extended periods of time, like, and I had to fucking, you get the fucking bubble guts, you know what I'm saying? And so, um, it just made me think, like, is there any time that happened to me in my life? And there is. So I'm gonna tell this little quick story just because I thought it was funny and I was thinking about it the other night. But one time I was at this football game, right? This freshman year, where we're up in I can't remember, we're up in a different town anyways. It's like a couple hours, 2-3 hours away from us. So we get up there, we're playing the game, and whatever, I'm playing, da 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 da. Finally, we get to about fourth quarter. We're like 5 minutes in, and my stomach started feeling crazy. You know what I'm saying? Like, I feel go like, you know what I'm saying. Anybody listening kind of knows that feeling you get, like when you got to take one of them type shits. So fucking my stomach's gurgling. I'm like, fuck, but I want to finish the game. So whatever, whoop, whoop. I stay in, and then finally there's about like a couple minutes left, probably like 3 minutes left, right? I'm like, oh fuck, I want to go back in again. You know what I mean? But I'm not really feeling it. So and you know how coaches be, they be insane. So like when you ask to go to the bathroom, coaches aren't normal human beings about it. They're like fucking animals about it, right? They fucking scream, they yell, they tell you that you're weak essentially. Like, not dogging on coaches, not dogging on football. That's just how it was for me. And I'm not bitching about it. I'm not saying I had a problem with it. I just know how they are. So I wasn't gonna ask to go use the bathroom mid fucking game or even towards the end. But finally, the game ends, right? And I sprint over to that bitch. I go full speed, right? And you got to keep in mind, it's full, right? Because the game's over. So all the parents, all the people, the enemy team, our team, like everybody who's got to take a shit, everybody who got to use the bathroom is going to the bathroom at this time, right? Because they're all about to leave. Some people came all the way from my town, my city to this town, so it's like some of these people, they've had to go too. So I get in there, whatever. Oh my god, tell me it's packed. It's packed. There's people everywhere in that bitch. I'm not getting a spot for another couple minutes. But finally, by the grace of God, right, this one stall I see swing open. Doosh. Guy come out, and I take my chance, bro. I run. Whew, whew, whew. I book it over there. I finally get to the fucking stall. Whatever, I hop in. Whoop, whoop. So finally, I get to relieve myself, and I know, baby. Sorry if I hear my dog in the background. I know, but you gotta go, bub. Hold up. Nah, you know what? I'll just finish the story. So anyways, we end up going, or I end up, I'm whatever. I'm taking my shit. My stomach's feeling crazy, but and then all of a sudden I hear a knock on the door, and I'm still shitting, and like some of them uncomfortable ones where you don't want to be around people. I mean, you don't even want to be in public. If it was up to you, you'd be shirtless, naked in your own home taking that shit. But it's not up to you, so you're not. But so then I hear a knock on the door. Doo, doo, doo. Hey, we're leaving. Blah 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 blah. I'm like, yo, I can't fucking like. If I leave this bathroom, I'm gonna shit on that bus. That's a 3 hour ride. I don't think it was one of them buses with the bathrooms. I'm pretty sure it was just a regular like bus. Like, I don't think it had all that. So fucking, I'm like, dude, I'm not gonna make it if I get out of here. Like, and then I was thinking, fuck, like, what am I gonna do? Because like I can't just stay here. Like, what? But then I remember my family came, so I was like, okay, I might be all right. So whatever, I'm in there. Finally, I get done. All right, come out. Team's gone, of course. Everybody's gone except my family, because I was in that bitch for like 20 minutes. So everybody's gone. Finally, I come out. I'm like, all right, cool, whatever. Let's go. So we're driving. I hop in. I'm watching my phone. We're just chilling. About 30, 40 minutes into the trip, what happens? I got a shit. I got a shit. It's a code red. Mind you, we're driving in the middle of butt fuck nowhere, so there is nothing. There's not gas stations. The next gas station I said, where's the next gas station? I'm freaking out, y'all. My shit is hurting. Like, where's the next gas station? Why they're gonna tell me 10 miles? Huh? 10 miles? What the fuck do you mean 10 miles? So we end up going about 2 miles, I'd say. I'm holding it, bro. I'm writhing in my seat. I'm like trying to get my ass up off the seat so I don't, you know what I mean? I'm just trying to do every precautionary. I'm holding my stomach. Like, I have to. This hurts. It literally hurts. So boom bop. We end up stopping at the fucking side of the road. I hop out, whatever. I take my shit, and man, it really, like, that really fucked me up because, like, right, I'm on the side of the road, mind you. Like, we just pulled over to a grassy patch. I hop out. It's dark at least, thank God. But I run over to like this tree bush. I squat. I'm taking my shit. I'm like, and it's one of those bad ones. It's not like I'm just sitting there regular shit. It's like, you know what I'm talking about? It's bad. So finally I get done doing that or whatever. And fuck, I'm like, what am I gonna wipe with, dude? And mind you, my grandparents, these are my regular grandparents. They don't think to give me anything, right? They don't, and I'll have some stories about them in some later episodes, but my grandparents aren't the most solid anyways. So they you know what I mean? I'm sitting out there, whatever, nothing to wipe my ass with. And I'm like, yo, like, what the fuck? What am I supposed to do? You know what I mean? Because I'm a kid. Like, I don't know what I'm supposed to do. So I hope there's some people that can relate in the audience, but I did what any good, smart man would do that doesn't want an infection on his ass or there to be shit all over his underwear. I I took off my socks. I took off the right one. I'm leaning up against the tree so I don't fall over. I leaned up against the tree. I take off my left sock. Wipe. Wipe one cheek, one side. Yeah, that shit's nasty. What do? I huck it as hard as I can at the other fucking tree I see in front of me. Then what do I do next? Take off the other sock. Right sock. Off. Same ritual. Hits that motherfucking tree. So now I'm 2 socks down, but there's still some shit. So I gotta make the ultimate sacrifice. Take the chones off, take the undies off, because they already pretty much has, you know what I mean? They pretty rough looking already from the situation. Rip them Johns off. One last time. Finally, it's done. It's over. I took my shit. I wiped my ass and my stomach finally stopped. That was the final. That was the last wave. That was that was the bonsai charge. That was really the last attempt to get me fucked up, and it worked. But I came out on top. Wiped my ass. Got back in the car. They're like, "What'd you wipe with?" And I thought that same question. Like, why would you? You didn't give me nothing to. No, you. Anyways, they're like, what'd you wipe with? I was like, oh, my socks, my fucking underwear. I didn't say fucking because I was a kid, but I was like, fucking or underwear or whatever. And they're like, well, that's just how it goes sometimes. When I was a kid, which don't get me started on that bullshit. Don't give me that when I was a kid bullshit. Like, what does that ever prove to anybody? Oh, my generation had it harder. Yeah, you think that's how evolution works? I mean, every generation is supposed to get more better. Every generation there's supposed to be a little bit more genetic fucking coding. I'm sorry, I'm not versed on that topic super well, but all people need is like we're supposed to get better every generation. It's not supposed to get worse. And so when people sit here and say, "Oh, when I was a kid, blah 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 blah," yeah. And what about your ancestors? And you know what I mean? Like who lived in fucking plague villages or who were fucking slaves in like Mesopotamia. You know what I mean? Do you have it better than them? Absolutely. Did your grandparents have it better than them? Absolutely. Did their grandparents see what I mean? You can't play that game. Otherwise, we're gonna sit there and play that game all day. I think that's dumb. I think that's it's that guilt trip shit of I had it bad, so you should have it bad. Like it's that shit where they're trying to make you be like, I don't know, in a sense, kind of make you feel better, but it never does. But they're just like, I had it pretty bad, so you can make it. You know what I mean? But as many of us know, in the real world, that's not how that advice works. Oftentimes, that goes over poorly. People don't want to hear that, especially going through a hard time. You don't you don't necessarily want to hear about someone else's struggle, but if you do, it doesn't feel good to when it's like, oh, I had it hard, so you can make it. We're different human beings. You know what I mean, just because you had it hard and you made it doesn't mean I will. Doesn't mean I would. Like because every single human is different. We all take things in different. We all take some things harder than others. There are some people it takes very little to set them off. Some people you can sit there and be belligerent and mean all day, and they're not gonna snap. It's just we're all different human beings, and to handle everything with the same pair of gloves is ridiculous. But I digress. That's not the main point of what I'm talking about today. Um, I guess there really is no central point of what I'm talking about today. Um, I was just, I was just feeling it. I know I had to get this episode out, and my buddy actually, shout out Phil, shout out Philly Will, shout out Lips, all the different names. He's been on my ass to get this pod out. Like I uploaded the last one like what a couple days ago, and he was on my ass, bro. He's talking about where's the next one, where's the next one. So shout out you, Philip. You get me on my grind. This next one's coming soon as I can. The last one's 5 days old, so probably upload this on the 24th or 25th. Maybe the 20. Maybe today. Today's the 23rd, so maybe today, but it just depends. Really, just depends. But so what I wanted to get into real quick. Hold up. I'm just looking at my notes real quick, trying to make sure everything is solid. I have some notes in here. They're all kind of shitty. So what I'm gonna do is look at my second. There we go. So I got these questions printed up from my producer. I want to make sure this is like the audio's good and y'all can hear me and shit. So hold up. All right. Yeah, we're good. All right, I just had to make sure. But so one of the questions is, did you expect your life to turn out how it did at 19? No. Nah, I mean, I guess that's a loaded question because from every age, I guess it changes perspective. So, more so on how you're going to be. But, like, from a little kid, no. I always had the regular route planned. I grew up middle class. So, I always had it planned that I was going to go to high school, I was going to go to college. And then my big dream when I was a kid, funny enough, was to be the president of the United States. That's what I want to be. You can find old drawings, or I can find old drawings of me as the president and the Secret Service and the big American flag behind us, and attempts at drawing jets, even though they just look like shit because I was like 6 or 7. Um, but yeah, that was really my shtick. That was really my kind of thing. Was I wanted to be president, and I believed, I believed a lot of things, and I thought at 19 I'd be in college which I'm getting there. There'll be updates on that as well. Um, so also too, if I start slacking on the pod, or if there's moments where I go, 2 weeks without uploading, 3 weeks even. Um, I'm studying for college right now. I'm about to take my tests, and then after that, hopefully, I'll get accepted to the one I want, and then start doing that. So yeah, I'm going to school for political science, or at least that's what it is right now, because um, that's just what I'm into. If you've listened to other episodes of the pod, you can kind of get that vibe, that sense of I want change. You know what I mean? I'm not rocking with the capitalist structure that we have today. Um, and that's not to say that capitalism can't be incorporated into a structure that we use. It's We shouldn't base our entire existence off of it, because I thought about this the other day, how far back capitalism and its evil goes. And man, like, so essentially, I was watching this video. Um, oh, I want to find the title of that, because I think everyone should go watch that. It's just a short little 20-minute like doc, essentially, about what they did to the Native Americans. There we go. I found it. So it's basically a little 20-minute doc about what they did to the Native Americans and their slow, gradual colonization. Not slow, even. I'd say pretty fast colonization and attempted genocide of the Native Americans peoples. And essentially, why it even happened the way it is because of capitalism and because of money. Because essentially, what happened is, sorry about that. Essentially, what had happened is, sorry about that. I think someone at my door. Anyways, sorry about that. So what? So what it essentially is about is the genocide, and how it's caused by capitalism. Like, you want to be blatant. Yes, you can blame racism. Yes, you can blame ideals. You can. There's a lot of there. It's not a one factor type thing. It's not a single cause. But I believe capitalism played a huge role, because essentially why they wanted to move west was profit, money. Yeah, housing in a sense, but California had been open for a while before people started to move there. When did they start to move to California? The gold rush. When did they come to the Black Hills? The gold rush. When do Europeans move towards? Mm, when do the Europeans come? Where there's money, when there's money. That's essentially what I'm saying is, where there's money, that's where the Europeans win, and that's a big factor in the genocide and the removal of the Native American peoples from their land. Because essentially, all these people are in the way, or at least that's how the Europeans view it. Obviously, that's not the practicality. It's their land. They were there, and nobody owns it. You know what I mean? It's not an ownership type deal. But I digress. So essentially, they move here for the gold rush, uh, and all the land grabs that they make are for profit. If they didn't think the land was profitable, they wouldn't have done it. It's like the Louisiana Purchase. If they would have tried to charge us more than they charged us, odds are we might not have bought it. But what did we buy it for? It was something extremely cheap. Like, it doesn't sound cheap, but I mean, it translates into real money. It's or modern day money. It's still quite a bit, but not when you think about people like Jeff Bezos and stuff today. I'd imagine they could buy the Louisiana Purchase fairly easy and be okay. Similar idea, but anyways, it's all profit motive. It's all about generating money, which is tough for me, because there is positives to capitalism. There is. Um, I'm doing my research. I'm trying to go to college for political science, so I'm trying to learn more about it. But as the way I understand it is, I believe that there should be a mixed system, um, meaning we can have privatization, right? But that shouldn't be our only system because that's where, in my opinion, it starts to get a little bit fucked up. It starts to get a little bit astray. You start to see the problems we have in the modern day when everything is privatized, healthcare, you name it, healthcare, food, um, any industry. There's almost no federal government sponsored I guess program is how I'd say that. So in essence, what I mean is we can have things like, businesses, we can have shops and places you go and buy things, but there should be a federal food store. So a federal grocery store, a government sponsored grocery store. And I know some people are going to say, well, that sounds close to communism. I'm not saying shut down the other grocery stores. I'm not saying anything of the sort. But if you want to regulate prices, that's a good start. Because if you had like a federal grocery store, make those prices, you know what I mean? And people are gonna argue and say that's gonna take business from the other places, and which it will. But is if that's better for the survival of humanity, if that means that more kids can go without starving, if that means more people can go without dying or falling into poverty or being homeless, isn't that what we want? I mean, it's you have to be pretty blatant and just say that you want homeless people to die or you want kids to die because they're poor, which really they're not even poor. Like, I mean, kids don't have a choice. They're born into whatever situation they have, so they don't really get a say in that. But you want them, like, essentially what these people who are against things like that are saying is they want more people to die in the name of capitalism, essentially, because they are not, because why really? I can't figure that out. I can't figure out why it would be bad to have a federal grocery store, because the only negative is it goes to the system we have now where people can't afford groceries, where food stamps aren't enough, and people start to die, people start to starve, people start to do crimes, because not only can they not afford things like luxuries, not only can they not afford fun things, they can't afford basic fucking resources. You know what I mean? They can't afford baby formula, milk, water, protein. I mean, I'm not even talking advanced things. It's not like I'm saying they have to eat steaks every day. What I'm saying is the fact that some of these people, and I've seen it and known personally about people who've committed crimes because they needed to eat, who've robbed gas stations for $100 so that they wouldn't fucking starve. I mean, what is that? Why in a country with so much wealth, with the most powerful military in the world, with the most, some of the most rich people here, some of the most rich people putting their money here. I'm not gonna say, but you know who I'm talking about, Smef Smezos and Belon Dusk. But anyways, like it in this country, it doesn't make sense not to have something like a federal grocery store, because you still can open grocery stores, you still can make your business, but now there's a place for people who can't afford it to go. And you might say to yourself, well, that would never work, people are always going to go for the cheaper one. There's Whole Foods right now. There is a Whole Foods right now, which is usually more so expensive than regular grocery stores because it's more quality. And that's exactly what the fuck I'm saying. You don't have to sell fucking the top sirloin at the cheapest price at this federal store that I have in mind. You can sell bare minimum items, even like meats, cheeses, milk, bottled water, because in places like Flint, Michigan, your tap is not safe. in a lot of places in the United States, not third world countries, not all the way in Iraq, not all the way somewhere mysterious. No, right here in the United States, there's a lot of places with unsafe drinking water. So these are the few things that I'd want in that federal store. That we don't have to have it extensive as Walmart. We don't have to, because it's not made like that. It's not made for profit. It's not made to look ooh. It's not made to carry every single product in the world because profit. It's made to carry bare necessities so people stop dying, so people stop starving, so kids can stop starving, so people stop, so the crime rates go down. If so many people weren't in poverty, the crime rate would be absolutely almost none. Actually, that's fucking very interesting. It's very interesting. Recently, I was talking to someone from Portugal, and they recently took a trip there, and they were telling me about how different the people are, how much nicer they are, how everybody in their house, even like essentially poor people, have self-shutting blinds in their home. And that might not seem like a big deal. That might seem obscure. That might seem silly. But think about it for a second. In our country, think about the average poverty household. And I'm talking extreme poverty. You know what I mean? No running water, no running lights, no car, overgrown yard, mold, decay, decrepit house. You know what I mean? They don't have fucking, some of them don't have blinds. You know what I mean? Which it's not the case, and I can't generalize. I haven't been there, but from what the person said, it's a lot different in Portugal. It's quite a bit different to how we handle things here in the United States. And I just think that having state ran businesses does not eliminate other businesses. I think that it just makes sure those who need it can have it. It's essentially like food stamps. You know, those who have food stamps, I'd say 97% aren't abusing it. And that might seem astronomical, that might seem insane, but I swear to you, growing up where I grew up, where I'm at now, I know so many people on food stamps who don't even have enough. I mean, it shock you. Everyone likes to claim about people mooching off welfare and living for free. It's not that, man. It's so hard to even apply for that shit and then get access to it, and then to only get $200 to feed a family of four or five. I mean, it's. I know it's supposed to pay out based on what your family situation's like, but they really believe that this idea that was created, that almost everybody's trying to mooch off the system, so they restrict access, they pick and choose, it's very biased. You know what I'm saying? Especially in certain areas. I mean, I'll just call it out. Like, look at the South. I mean, you go to certain areas and it's it's completely different than what you'd expect. Like, just in a general sense, not from, the stereotypes and everything, but it's like a lot of the workers who are working in the welfare office are white, and then a lot of people who are coming in are black. And regardless of race, religion, any of that, they're supposed to help you based on your income, your welfare situation. But just like any job in just like anything at all, human emotion's gonna play a role. Like I've said this 1,000 times. I can't remember when I heard this, when I was probably like 12 something. But you could design the most perfect plan. You could draw up a game plan so beautiful that it would win every game in a row. I think it was about like a football analogy, that you could draw up a plan for football that could not be beat. That there isn't a counter play that could stop it. There isn't a that it was such a well drawn up play that there's nothing stopping it except one, well, not small, one huge factor: human error and human emotion, right? Because when hmm, I mean, it's not too hard to describe. I just had to think about it for a second. when people have like a job, you're expected to turn off your emotions, right? They see you leave what what's at home at home. Don't bring it to the workplace. That's impossible. If humans' mind worked like that, we would be so much more advanced. If we could just cut out the parts we disliked, if we could just not feel sadness or anger, or if we could just not feel stress, then we would be the perfect workers. We could work all day long, all day, all night long, and only need sleep. And you know what I mean? Then if we could change and switch our emotions just like that, like on a dime, then we would. But we can't. And so like this whole idea of prejudices and biases go out of a job it doesn't it literally is impossible and cannot make any sense to me. If someone's racist and they're the manager, they don't have to say that they're racist. They don't have to let it be known. But that bias is still in them no matter what. They could still feel that way no matter what and not hire certain people and be mean to certain people and belittle certain people and get away with a lot of it and not say a word about being racist the whole time. It's I mean, being a 9 to 5 worker, I can attest of that like not the racist thing, not the racist thing. Absolutely not. Absolutely not. I mean, I'm half black, so absolutely not. But no, being in like 9 to 5, like half the people I see, I don't fucking like. You know, especially when I was working at I'm not gonna name the company just in case. But whenever I was working where I was working and like the customer base was wealthier wealthier old women. Like that was really what the clientele was. Wealthier old women. And so I didn't like serving a lot. A lot of them were mean, a lot of them were Karens, a lot of them were can I see your manager? Oh, he has an attitude problem because he bagged my thing in a disrespectful manner. Ma'am, I'm tired. I already worked all day. There's stuff going on at home. You know what I mean? I might be fighting with the girlfriend. I might be beefing with my parents. I might be some crazy shit can happen in your household, and especially what I like try to tell people is in 24 hours a lot can happen. I mean, like think about like this might seem drastic and wild, but think about like 9/11. How many hours did that happen in? What, one? How many minutes did that happen in? You know what I mean? A lot can happen in a 24-hour period. So you'd have a lot of baggage with you. You know what I mean? If the day before somebody you love died, or if your dog died, or you hit a car or hit a deer or something, you know what I mean? One financial blow, one emotional blow, anything like that, you're gonna take it with you to work, whether you like it or not. And so for them to sit there and like, I understand being respectful and being presentable, but what I what I have a problem with is this idea that we should turn off our emotions, or that people that there is no bias in job, that there is no that I'm not gonna get into it today because it's hella controversial, and I don't even want to. I don't even want to get into that right now. I'm not trying to be that political yet. Um, it has to do with a certain occupation. Yeah, it has to do with a certain occupation that they back a certain color. I'll say that they have a very light color that they like to. Um, I wouldn't say light. I guess it could be any shade, but they have a they have a certain saying that's back to something, and it's a color. So I'll let you figure that out on your own. But to pretend there's no bias in jobs, to pretend that uh, humans are just going to execute it perfectly, is ridiculous. That's what I was saying about that football thing earlier. I don't know if I finished that, but essentially you could draw up the most brilliant plan, but human error is always going to fuck with it because that's just how humans are. We're going to second guess ourselves. We might hesitate. We might jump the gun. There's so many different factors that humans add to an equation that can't be accounted for. You know what I mean? And well, I don't know where I got started on this originally, but oh, it's capitalism. But no, essentially human error is always gonna fuck with stuff. So I mean, it's just like on paper capitalism works and the free market works. But when you get so big and so large and manage it the way we do, there's no accountability. There's so much millions of dollars, billions of dollars that go missing, that people steal, that individuals steal, that companies steal, that respected CEOs steal, that dirty low life criminals steal, that you know what I mean? And I don't believe that anyone, there's very few people on this earth that are dirty low life criminals. Like you got to be a monster, you know what I mean? You got to be Jeffrey Dahmer, you got to be Jimmy Seville, you got to be somebody pretty fucking bad for you to have that title. But um I think it just doesn't work. It's gotten to a point where there's too much suffering. At least for me, if you want to live on a scale of personal, like, and you're okay and your life's okay, then that's a little bit different. But if you want the betterment of society, if you want people not to die, if you want kids to not go hungry, if you actually care and have empathy and sympathy and actually care about people, then then logically there should be some federal programs. Stores is one good idea I have. Um, a federal school in every state. Now I know that sounds a little weird, but just how we have military bases, like we could have these same things. School, I'm not gonna go too much further into because I don't know a whole lot. I don't really have a structured idea. I mean, sort of. It'd just be a school that teaches you more like more so the skills you need than all the filler they gave us in high school. Things like your mortgage, things like a IRA account, things like car payments. How would I get a loan? um, just things that they sort of prepare you for in high school, but I don't feel like they did a good enough job. That's why I'm where I'm at. I'm 19 and still not in college. Well, just getting into college because I had no idea. I had no help. I didn't even know how to apply. You know what I mean? So, and you can break that down to the individual, but ultimately, if you wanted more people to succeed, then it doesn't matter. You know what I mean? If the individual or not, because there's a lot of people who claim they don't want to learn or claim that they didn't like high school, but I feel like had they learned something useful or had it been a different environment, um, maybe things, you know what I mean? I feel like a lot of people wouldn't have such a negative opinion like me. Anyways, that's a different thing. Another thing I believe in is a federal hospital. One in every city is a little bit more hard, but one in every major city or every capital. I mean, a federal hospital where they charge you, reasonably based on your income, if they charge you at all. I don't think hospitals should charge at all because it defeats the purpose of a hospital. And we live in a society with enough money, enough billionaires, and enough people that we could have free hospitals or essentially free hospitals where you're talking $5, $10 for things, not 1,000, 500. I'll tell you about how fucked up our healthcare system is. My tooth fell out, right? When I was there's a whole story there. I'm gonna save that for a later pod because that's a good one. But essentially, my tooth got knocked out. I had to get it replaced. The replacement itself cost $2,000 something dollars. Ridiculous, right? Because if not, then I don't have a tooth. I don't have any confidence. That could have. I don't want to get so serious and get so say something that hurts somebody's feelings or anything, but I've I did feel like that when because there was a point where I didn't have it. Right, I had to wait for I think 2 months or something before I actually got the tooth in, and I felt like committing suicide. I was so torn down by that. I would felt so ugly that my big front tooth was missing, and people made fun of me, and people used to call me like Patrick Star and shit. And like, yeah, it's funny to a certain extent. I'm not a pussy. I can take a joke, but it does hurt your self-esteem. And if I had to be like that for the rest of my life, or whenever I got financially stable, there's a question of if I would have made it, because that shit hurts. And as we fucking see time and time and time again in society, bullying and self-esteem, that shit really does matter. Look at this fucking suicide rate and tell me that it doesn't matter that how people feel about themselves. Tell me that that tooth wasn't a necessity. Because you know what I mean? You can sit there and say it was cosmetic all day. You can sit there and say that it was my choice and I got in whatever and that's the blah 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 blah. Okay, and the result on the other end is potentially a dead human. So is that more worth it? You see what I'm saying? Why capitalism starts to be evil? Because is that more worth it? Oh, it's cosmetic. Oh, blah blah blah. We're not gonna give him a tooth fairy the cheap because that's cosmetic and because he doesn't need it. And even when you do need surgeries, by the way, like if you get cancer, I mean the whole plot of Breaking Bad is he gets cancer and has to start dealing meth so he can pay for it. So just because it's something life threatening or something way more serious than a tooth does not mean they'll pay for it either. But back to my tooth story, um, it just things like that where that destroyed my self esteem and that could have ended very badly. But I was in thankfully I was born into a family middle class and we were able to get that tooth repaired and I feel better today. But in my life, and I'm not talking about recently because I don't know if I talked about it on the last pod, but my tooth fell out, and that this is that same tooth from when it fell out a long time ago, and that's how I felt initially a long time ago, not this last recent one. But that's the shit I'm talking about, where it, our healthcare system is whack, and you might say to yourself, who's gonna pay for it? They're all these the top 1%, the top 5%. You're telling me the top 5% can't give up more money from their taxes? And I gotta watch how I speak because I don't. There's a lot to that too, but it just doesn't make sense. We could take, back before. I don't remember quite what year it was, but I want to say around the World War II era. We used to take, I think, 90% of the rich, 90% of 90. We used to tax the rich 90% of what they earned, which so many people are gonna get up in arms and some people are gonna freak out. But when you realize what 90% of, let's say, 100 million is, and you're still making 10 million a year, I mean, like the way, like think about that. All that 90 million could go to roads, schools, hospitals. It could, and that person, you might argue that they earn that money, but $10 million is enough, and you will not move me on that stance that $10 million is not enough money to live the rest of your life on more than comfortably. Do, private jets, yachts, drinking every day, having a blast. You can't tell me that that's not gonna get you. I mean, you know what I mean. I can't. You can't tell me that that's not enough money. That's not. So that's what I mean. Where if we tax the rich more, and I'm not saying don't tax people. I mean, that's a hard issue to argue there. I mean, I don't agree with all the taxes, but there is a necessity to them. My problem is we should be taxing people based on what they make, based on their tax bracket, based on their estates, based on these solid numbers of what they have, not the glove strap where you handle every fucking piece of meat with the same glove, if that makes any sense. You can't you I'm so sorry. There's some background interference. Um, fuck, where was I? Oh, you can't handle every person the same essentially though. You know what I mean? You can't have the same pair of gloves on that. Here's a good example. You can't have the same pair of gloves on that you're shoveling shit with that you're using to fucking as your cook gloves. You know what I mean? You can't have the same gloves that are worn for winter and playing in the snow. You can't have those same gloves on for fucking chopping up meat or something, or cooking. You know what I mean? You just that's not you can't handle every situation for the same pair of gloves because that's how things get messy and worse. And that's what I think has happened is with taxes at least they handle us all the same because that's what the rich want. That's what they got is they barely get taxed and and so they barely get taxed compared to us. That's the thing is we still pay high taxes for the layman, for the normal person. We still pay decently high taxes. But when you have $90 million, $100 million, and you get taxed the same rate I do, and you're paying a million, let's say, a million out of that, you still have 89 million. You'll be fine. Even your most expensive pair of shoes. If we were able to make a system in which we took more from the rich, you can still tax the people what you tax them, but take more from the rich, put that money into roads, bridges, hospitals, schools, architecture, just everything to better the community instead of all this money that doesn't go anywhere. That honestly goes overseas more so than anywhere. That goes into China, that goes to Europe, that goes to Russia, that goes to all these other countries except the United States, where we're the number one richest. I think we're the richest country in the world or close to it. You know what I mean? With a military industrial complex out the wazoo, and we spend $1 trillion on that a year. Um, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense for us not to do something like that, where we could improve our society if that was the case. That was a long rant, and I lost my train of thought. So sorry if that guy kind of fucked up and jumbled towards the end, but I believe that capitalism plays a huge problem, and I believe it can be implemented. That's my main argument: is capitalism can be implemented, but it should not be the sole system that drives us. We can have a free market, we can have marketplaces, but there should be federal buildings to regulate things, to make sure the people that need it that are getting it, and to help more people survive, rather than treating everyone in more of a criminal manner. Kind of like I was speaking about the food stamps things earlier, how a lot of people think that people are stealing it or using the system or mooching off it. If you assume everyone's mooching off the system, then it makes it a lot harder for the people who need it to get access to it, if that makes any sense. Because, you know what I mean? Just assuming everyone's a criminal or everyone's dangerous, there's almost no time that's useful. The only time that's useful is in a war zone. And even then, that's not useful because assuming everyone, you might shoot your buddy. Your buddy might pop in the door, but because you assume everyone's a hostile, because you assume everything's dangerous, you might pop your buddy. It's not a good system that we run on, and that's honestly how it feels. It feels like they're criminalizing being poor. They're criminalizing, oh, they're trying to steal food stamps. Oh yeah, maybe there's a fucking reason. You know what I mean? There's not the people on the streets who are getting the food stamps aren't the monopolies. They're not the ones. I mean, if they sell their food stamp card, so what? If they're, you know what I mean? If they're getting extra food stamps, so what? Food stamps is literally only used for food. So how the fuck are you gonna argue that it's like so many people like to say that homeless people do drugs and all these other things, and it's like, man, now you're criminalizing food stamps, saying people are gonna steal them, saying people are mooching off the system, living on welfare. Man, what? Like, the food stamps are so people can survive. They can't even go buy no. You're not buying a Lamborghini with food stamps. You're not buying no Jordans with food stamps. You know what I mean? Unless it's a copious amount that's not even possible. It's it's absurd to me how we've got to that level where we criminalize homeless people. We criminalize things like that, and we make it a more negative thing. Like I said, if you approach everything with those same pair of gloves that they're all criminals, it's not good. Another system, I have a complaint about our justice system and how they handle everyone with the same pair of gloves, essentially, and how those court systems are made for the exact opposite of how we run it. The whole point of a judge and a jury was to be understanding, to listen to a person and figure out why they did it, and to see, sentence them based accordingly, right? Because, like, let's say it's the year 1740, and mildew just stole Filbert's sheep, right? And they take him to court, and Filbert stole his sheep because he was hungry, his family was starving, he was scared, he felt that there was no other option, and you know what I mean. The list goes on of why, but there's more so legitimate reason than he just stole it to do it, or for profit, or he stole it to feed his family. The way that the old courts would work, the way that the system we use now that's been completely destroyed and redesigned, we would have the jury approaches it, the judge approaches it, the judge listens to it, and he decides whether the person's even guilty or not. He decides whether what their sentence should be, even if they are guilty. And that's sort of how it is now, but it's not, because you have all these fucking mandatory minimums. You have all these weird rules and stipulations around it now, that people are on probation on for this long, and even like if they do this, and if they seize your money, then you have to prove that it's not dirt. Like, you know what I mean? Just different things that it was not used as its intended purpose. Our founding fathers would be sick with today's America, because this is it's I don't want to get too radical. I'm not gonna say so much crazy stuff, not yet, but um the way they'd see the US government now, they wouldn't be very proud of it, because, like I said, those court systems are made to judge. It feels like now anytime somebody goes to court, they're going to jail. There's almost no, I mean, even when they're innocent, they're at least gonna go to the jail. They're at least gonna get booked in. Like, they're, you know what I mean? And the whole time, in any ways, how it is in the modern America is guilty until proven innocent. You can say, again, on paper, you can say innocent until proven guilty, but that doesn't add in human bias, these human factors of the judge is racist, or the judge is prejudiced. The judge is old. The judge comes from a time where blackface dolls were still around. You know what I mean? Eh, they don't account for all that. So you can say innocent until proven guilty on paper, but you can't vet for that. You can't prove that. You can't show that that man really thinks that you're innocent until you're proven. No, he might think you're guilty off that. You might walk in that courtroom and think you're guilty. There are judges who've gotten caught with scandals like that, who've been paid off, and who, as soon as somebody walks in the room, they already got them guilty, but they just need to get the process done so they can do it and get their money. Again, on a small scale, like I was explaining before, he stole the sheep, whatever, they decide. And oftentimes the judge would decide something lighter for that guy. Oh, you stole a sheep? Okay, well, or something equal. Repay the man his sheep within 30 days or whatever. And if you don't repay the sheep, then, you have to sit in the county for, or you know what I mean? You have to sit in chains for whatever, or you have to do manual labor, or appropriate sentences that make sense. Nowadays with mandatory minimums, someone might do something for a very good reason. You know what I mean? They might, but the jury, the judge, like, it doesn't matter. He's got to sit a minimum 5 years because he did the crime. Now, how does that make any sense? Why is there even a judge? Why is there a jury? If you have to do minimum sentences, that doesn't make any sense. The judge is supposed to decide that, whether you deserve 5, whether you deserve 10, whether, you know what I mean? More so than, okay, he committed the crime. The minimum is 5. So that's kind of your starting point. You know what I mean? Like, okay, so now he's gonna up it to 10 or 15 or whatever because the lowest he can go is 5. You know what I mean? And it's just it's absurd. It's absurd. I'll get into that again, like I said, on a different episode of the pod. Uh, I don't want to get too radical, too crazy, too quick. So we'll just kind of keep that one in the bag for now. For now, don't think I won't come back to it, especially if anybody's interested in that. Like, don't think I won't come back to that. That's gonna be a reoccurring topic, but um, yeah, man, that's kind of my shtick. That's my take on that. Um, just going through a few things, reading up. I noticed we're at close to the hour mark, so you know it's gonna be ending soon. It's gonna be ending soon. Um, but like I said, thank y'all for all the support. I appreciate everything. Um, I really enjoy doing this pod. It's kind of a release for me. It really does make me happy. It takes me a second to get into it. I edit a lot of that out, but it does usually take me a second to kind of get into it or to give yourself that motivation. But once I do it, I love it, man. I love it. Like I said, I could sit here and talk for a while about these things, which I do, and I'm very passionate about, and I appreciate that people like to listen. And like I said, just keep listening, just keep doing what you're doing, keep up the support. Um, I'm working on that second mic. I'm also enrolling in college. There's a lot going on in my life right now. But if I can get that second mic, I promise you I'll have my first guest on. I promise y'all. As soon as I get my first mic, hoping by the 10th episode, I'll have my first mic or second mic, and I'll be able to record that pod with somebody. Um, Ideally, I kind of have who I want on that first guest to be. Um, it's one of my close homies, pretty cool dude. There's a few different people I could do, and then eventually there's this guy that owns this glass shop here. Um, it's called Smoke Solutions. His name's Rick. He's a dope ass guy, super cool. Every time I've been in there, he's always hella helpful. He always gives me little tidbits. He's always like trying to, I would say salesman, but it's not really because he's more so just telling me he just gets really hyped about the pieces more so. It's like he's not even trying to sell at a certain point. Like I'll walk around that bitch for an hour, 2 hours with him, and then we'll just talk, and then I won't even buy nothing. And he'll be like, all right, man, well, I just, yeah. So we cool like that. So I rock with Rick. I rock with his vibe. So hopefully, I can get him on here. That would be a really cool one. He's a really interesting dude. He's got a lot of stories, a lot of stuff he could tell. I could already tell that. But that's kind of where that's at. Um, but yeah, like I said, man, I'm just working on getting that second mic kind of further in my life right now, and hopefully the more I get into politics, the more I get into school, hopefully y'all hear my kind of evolution of from where I started with these kind of loosely, not loosely, I do my research, but it'll be more so in depth when I'm in college and when I do learn how to be mm, I don't know how to phrase it right, but I feel like once I get to college, you guys will really hear me thrive as well, and I'll probably have way more guests and things like that. Just recently, I started reading this book. I went to the bookshop with my homie Owen. We got some books, but one of them I got was Rise of the Warrior Cop. Um, Really good book. Really good book. I recommend everybody go out there, get you a copy. I'm reading it right now. But it basically just talks about the militarization of America's police force. And that's not blaming them. That's nothing on them. They're all individuals. It's the same with anything. You don't want to group. You don't want to generalize. I've met some really good cops. I've met some really bad cops. They're people. They're human. Your occupation doesn't take away you're human. You know what I mean? Um, it's for a lot of things. Your occupation doesn't take that from you. So I recommend everyone go read that. Um, yeah, man, I had a great time recording this one. I want to thank y'all for listening. Thank y'all for listening. Um, I think that's gonna be it for this pod. I appreciate y'all. Tune into the next episode, and I'm out.